What's up, guys? I just want to get right into Ecclesiastes 3:1 and talk about how God is holistic, how God is everything. Everybody want to separate good and bad, war and peace, love and hate. Like, nigga, that's all. God is everything, and ain't shit gonna change about that. So I don't get, when did this shit all of a sudden change? That's what I'm trying to figure out. When did God just be peace? When was God just love? When was God just one-sided? God is the Omega and, Alpha and Omega. That means he's the creation and the death. And I'm not going into the aspect of the God that other people might say is just one God. I'm talking about my higher self. Like, my higher self is in control of me. That's what I believe. And it's in control if I want to live or whatever. But, bro, it's like, it's not all about love. It's not all about hate. But, nigga, it's damn sure about everything. I talk about being holistic. Like, it ain't about just being one-sided. Like, sometimes in relationships you need hate if you're trying to break up. Why are you losing love if you're trying to break up with this person or detach from this person? Same with the world. Why are you loving the world when you're supposed to be detaching from it? So maybe you do need to use hate. And I talk about, if you love heaven and you keep connecting to heaven, you're going to slowly start hating this world, because this world cannot produce what that heaven can, ever. And let's just get into it. For everything, there is a season, a time for activity under the heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to harvest. A time to kill and a time to heal. This is the Alpha and Omega speaking. And you can think of it in the physical, but this is really about spiritual shit. There's a time to kill versions of yourself that might ultimately destroy you, versus other versions of yourself that you need to heal because they've been, they've been fucked over so much. They got so much trauma. Sometimes you're not supposed to destroy everything. Some things need to be healed and pulled through. Some things need to be killed. And that's just the reality that we live in. Ain't shit changed. There's a time to kill, there's a time to heal. There's a time to tear down, and there's a time to build. Best thing I ever heard Tiffany message was like, why is there a steering wheel in a car if you can't turn around? So yes, there's sometimes you get high up and you to a point where you like, damn, I don't want to start over. But sometimes you gotta start over. I used to be like that all the time. I'd be halfway through my essay and I'm like, bro, this shit just not lining up. Fuck it, throw it away. But I can't just keep holding on to that shit. Sometimes I might can edit enough shit, but sometimes it's like by the time you edit everything, it's a whole new paper, so you might as well start over anyways. So it's a time for everything, and that's God being holistic, looking at it through the holistic perspective and not just being one-sided, always throwing away your shit because you don't see no value in it, or always, like, either way it go. A time to kill, a time to heal, a time to cry, a time to grieve, and a time to dance. We already know that one. A time to scatter stones, and a time to gather stones. And this makes sense because if you're talking about scatter stones, we talk about God scattering our children. If we was all in one place, we might have all been destroyed. So he scattered the stones so we could be separate and for our benefit. And then when it'll be a time for us to be gathered back together and rejoice and be whole again. There's a time to embrace, and that's also going into, sometimes you got to play dumb. You can't have all your bread in the basket, even though it might be wise to do that at a certain point. Sometimes you got to spread your shit out because people be lurking, or shit like that. It's time to embrace, and it's a time to turn away. Bro, life ain't always about embracing life. Sometimes you got to turn away from life a little bit to understand more. Get out the picture in this. Look outside the box in a sense. That's what when I look at turn away. And sometimes you do have to embrace life to learn more lessons. It's perspective. That's why we all need balance. That's why the best thing to be is holistic. You can love death, but you'll be lost in the sauce because you need to learn how to live from life. But some people are so full of life, I only can teach you about death because you already know everything you need to know about life. You know all about light, but you've been running away from darkness so long. So that's why I stay stuck on darkness and teaching darkness, because everybody always know about light. Like, that's rebalancing, honestly. A time to search and a time to quit searching. I just had to realize that, man, for myself personally. Like, bro, you can keep trying to look for more shit and do more things, but sometimes you got to realize, at what point is this search going to end? Will it ever end? Okay, well, maybe I need to stop searching. It's not. Sometimes you do need to search for more, and that search might be in yourself. Maybe you're searching in the wrong places. Like, it's many perspectives to these things, but God is holistic, so y'all need to understand that shit. Time to keep and a time to throw away. Everything's not going to always stay valuable. Sometimes we hold on to things too long. Period. A time to tear and a time to mend. Sometimes like I said, tears is sometimes you got to release. Let that shit go. Stop trying to be the bigger person and not show emotions. Show your emotions. And then once you show your emotions, maybe there'll be time to mend. Be holistic. let out what you holding in. Like we mask and shield and censor and filtrate the shit that come out of us because we don't want people to judge us. And that shit's so sad, bro. The only person you should be worried about is yourself. And at the end of the day, if you love yourself, ain't shit to worry about. Ain't no vulnerability. Ain't no somebody making you feel bad because they, like, my homeboys are just talking about they ain't never fell asleep having sex. Like, nigga, I could be hella played off that shit, but nigga, I know my experiences. I know what happened with me. There's no reason to argue that shit. And same with other things. Like, bro, if you comfortable in yourself, people that might joke about you, the shit become a better, like my face. Like, nigga was saying I look like a pedophile and shit. I love myself, so I know that shit fucking funny, bro. Like, it's just, like, understanding, bro, and really true, like, being holistic, bro. People can't even fuck with you. But, where was I? There's a time to tear and a time to mend. There's a time to be quiet, a time to speak. Very truly. Because, I mean, sometimes a nigga got a gun when you're pointing to your head, you need to be quiet. Like, for a long time, America had the gun pointed to a lot of our people's heads. So, I mean, they still was choosing to speak, and they had to speak. They ain't had no real option or choice, but sometimes they had to be quiet. And best believe that's how it happened for a while. During slavery and shit, like Black Panthers and shit, and Martin Luther King, they got slain. But even back then, they was going even harder just for reading a book. So that they were speaking to their people and versus reading a book. So while we was reading this shit, we had to keep that shit quiet. But once we finally got that knowledge and internalized it, we can start speaking and sharing it to other people while we got it. Because if we hold on to it for too long, we might die and we can't never spread that knowledge. So it's a time to be quiet, a time to speak. It's about being holistic. And this is my favorite shit in the whole thing. There's a time for love and there's a time for hate. There's a time for war and there's a time for peace. And like I said, this is a lot of shit that's doing with spiritual shit. And yeah, you can look at it physically, but I look at it spiritually because you get way more messages out of it spiritually. There's a time for war and there's a time for peace. Sometimes you might have to go to war with yourself because you let one side of yourself hold on for too much and you got to fight for that righteousness back. Like, you got to destroy. For some people, they say they got to kill their ego because their ego has been controlling them too long. I wouldn't say that's what you have to do, but you have to gain balance. But for, like I said, some people balance is killing that because they've been so off balance for so long, so they got to rebalance it. So their idea would have to kill it until they get close enough to killing it. They might not ever change their perspective until they almost perceive it, and then they start to get more logical. So they're like, "Oh, I'm here now. Now that I got the knife at the throat. Do I really want to do this to my ego? Now that I have power again, type shit." And then you start to have holistic views. Well, it just depends. And I just want to wrap it up here. Why do people really get what do people really get for all their hard work? I have seen the burden of God has placed on all of us. Sorry, he done it on all of us. I tell y'all the truth, but y'all don't want this pressure. But it's on all of us. I don't get it. How can you not have pressure? Like, the burden, that's what the burden is. God has placed on all of us. Yet God has made everything beautiful for its own time. So look at it like white people had their time, black people had everybody got their time. You got your time to love, you got your time to hate, you got your time to reincarnate, you got your time to get the fuck off this planet. But whenever it's your time, it's going to be beautiful. And you're going to love it, you're going to rejoice in it. But before that time, you might not feel that. But there's a time for everything. Like, sometimes you need to hate when you in love. But you don't want to do that because you've been loving and attached to these people for so long. But sometimes you got to go through that. And it'll be, that like I said, you got to trust your timing. And that's really what that is. But let's just keep reading. Yeah, God has made everything beautiful for his own time. He has planted every eternity in human's heart. But even so, people cannot see the whole scope of God's work from the beginning to end. And I'm just saying we're eternal, but we haven't been, like, we can't remember everything in a sense. But so concluded, there is nothing better than to be happy and enjoy ourselves as long as we can. And people should eat and drink and enjoy the fruits of their labor, for their gifts are from God. And yeah, that's cool, but I'm off that shit. And I know whatever God does is final. Nothing can be added or taken away from it. God's purpose that people should fear him. God's purpose is that people should fear him. What is happening now happens before, and what will happen in the future has happened before, because God makes the same thing happen over and over again. And they're just saying the cycle continues until you break out of it. And yeah, I know it says God's purpose is that people should fear them, but there's a time for everything. When you're lost, you have a time that you need to be in fear of that higher power that might come back. But if you're righteous, why are you still stuck in fear? Be holistic. Yeah, you might have to be fear. I can deal with that. I talk about why people have fear, why people are afraid of God. It's a time for being afraid because you are a lost person. But through that lostness, you rose. And while rising, you shouldn't keep that fear. Like, that's just common sense in my eyes. You can say I'm wrong because that's not what the book said. But hey, I'm like I said, I don't believe fully in anything. I know everything comes from the mind. I'm not indoctrinated by anything but my mind. And I know whatever interpretation I get, that's my interpretation and how I'm gonna present it. So whatever you heard me say, that's your world. Let's see. I know God does everything and will endure forever. Nothing can be added and taken away from it. Let's see. I need to go back one. I'm trying to read a different translation. Okay, and all translations don't even use that fear. Oh, wait. Let me see. I'm sorry. I want to make sure before I speak out of hand. I perceive whatever God does endures. Nothing can be added nor taken away from it. Yeah, all of them don't use fear. Some of them use fear. Some of them don't. Like, so different translations speak differently to you. Yeah, bro, like, you can choose to live with fear because that's what some people chose to translate that shit into. They was in that perspective. They was looking from a bad perspective of God, so they're going to translate it into fear. And you can read from that perspective, or you can read for somebody that's been doing the right work and being on that path. I mean, of course, you have to take that path, and I'm just saying. You just realize perspective. I'm just making sure I'm correct. I don't never like shorthanding people. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I eat that shit. Man, what happened, man? Alright, well, my Wi-Fi just cut off. Alright, here we go. Each of them eats and drinks. Yeah, man, like I said, it don't even say fear in all of them. But if you want to fear God, go right ahead. I'm not going to stop you, man. Like I said, he said, there's a time for everything. If you feel like you're in a time you need to fear God, I'm not going to stop you. But I'm not in that time no more. And it's beautiful for me, like you said. And going just back to the white and black thing, like, white people rule so black people can rise again. Like, it was beautiful. Our struggle was beautiful. We got to wake up out of that shit. And you can hate them. You can dislike them. But shit, they was possessed by something higher than them. So at the end of the day, I don't even fault them. It's my fault that they had power over me. It's my fault that I fell away from my power for somebody else to be granted more power over me. And that's my perspective. I'm getting a little deep or personal, I guess, because I know people don't like talking about race, but it just is what it is, man. Everybody got their purpose. Ain't shit changed. And it says that whatever's happened then happens now. That's the cycle of this reality we live in. And just like you think God is all love, he's never been like that. And it's never going to change. He's always been holistic. I'm sorry. It's just the truth. And then go back to the burden and shit, like for people that talk about putting pressure in their life, you make me feel bad in the sense of, nigga, I'm just speaking God. I'm just thinking what I'm supposed to do. But now you making me seem like I'm wrong for not trying to get this burden off my shoulders and off your shoulders. You rather keep it on you, but it's heavy. So it's just like bench press. Like, you'd rather just keep it on your chest instead of trying to push it off. And as sad as it seems, man, good luck to you. Hopefully you become stronger in the future. But I can't let you hold me back because I'm pushing all weight up off me. And that's that pressure. That's the burden. I'm tired of living with this burden. I talk about feeling like I was a burden to other people. But it wasn't that I was a burden to other people. It was a burden. I was a burden in this world. Like, just period. That's just, we all have it. And I was just connecting to that shit. And I was putting it in the world. I was putting it in physical, cardinal, worldly shit when it was spiritual. I had a spiritual burden I had. And I've slowly been figuring it out. And I slowly been working through it, man. And it's beautiful. Like you said, it's the time for everything. And it's beautiful. My waking up period is beautiful. Even though I might hate it, it's beautiful. Because I know hate ain't shit. Like, hate is love. It's another way of doing it. But since we so lost in shit, like, it is what it is. Like, you should love hate because hate gonna get you out of this world. Hate gonna get you to heaven. That's the truth, bro. And like, I don't know why I can't. I don't see how people can't connect to that. If there's something greater, if you keep wanting to get to that something greater, wherever you at now, you're gonna be like, what the fuck? Why? Well, it's not gonna be the same. Whenever you keep connecting to these infinite ass dreams and control, and then you come back to jurisdiction and bills and breathing. I'm just playing, but still, you gotta breathe. Like, nigga, I'm trying to get beyond that shit, honestly. But eating, my nigga Darius said he tired of eating. Like, bro, that's a burden. We gotta stay full.